I finally snapped at my own wedding. What I did left my entire family absolutely terrified. I am a 31-year-old man, and I just ended my brother's con at my wedding reception. He had been running it for 4 years. My parents had no idea. This is the story of how the best day of my life became the day my family discovered who my brother really was. And how I made sure they found out. The pattern. My brother Daniel is 34. He has been the golden child since birth. Not in small ways. In ways that shaped everything. When I was 11 and Daniel was 14, I made the honor roll for the first time. Mom and Dad took us out to dinner to celebrate. Daniel ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, complained about the restaurant the whole time, knocked over his drink, and laughed when I had to move my homework folder before it got wet. My honor roll certificate sat on the table getting damp while everyone apologized to Daniel for the soggy napkins. That was the pattern. Any achievement of mine became a background event to whatever Daniel needed that day. My high school graduation. He had a sunburn from the beach and needed aloe vera and shade and constant sympathy while I crossed the stage in the heat. My college acceptance to a school I had worked 4 years to get into. He had just argued with his girlfriend, and dinner became 2 hours of my parents coaching him through the relationship. My first real job. He needed help moving into a new apartment that weekend, and somehow that became everyone's priority, including mine. I stopped expecting anything. I moved 3 hours away, built a career in software engineering, made good money, saved well. When I met Claire 4 years ago, I finally felt like someone saw me. Not as support staff for Daniel, just as me. The proposal. I proposed to Claire on a Tuesday evening in our apartment. No big production. Just us. Wine. The ring I had saved 6 months for. She said yes, and then cried, and then laughed, and then said yes again. We called my parents first. Dad answered. I said, Dad, I proposed to Claire, and she said yes. That is wonderful, son. Hold on. He put me on hold for 4 minutes. When he came back, he sounded distracted. Sorry about that. Daniel called on the other line. He is having some issues with his investment business. What were you saying? I repeated that I was engaged. Oh, wonderful. Let me get your mother. Mom got on and said the right words. Congratulations. So exciting. We love Claire. Then, Daniel is going through something right now. Can we call you back later to celebrate properly? They did not call back that evening. Daniel's investment business problems were more pressing. I should have paid more attention to that word. Investment. The wedding planning. Claire and I planned our wedding for 10 months. Small. 70 guests. A venue outside the city with a garden ceremony and indoor reception. My parents were invited, of course. Daniel was invited with significant reluctance on my part. Claire convinced me. She said, he is your brother. You will regret it if you do not try. I told Daniel he was not in the wedding party. He said, what? Why not? Because you have never shown up for me once. This is my day. I want people around me who support me. He was cold for 2 weeks. Then he called and said he understood, and he just wanted to be there for me. I should have known he did not mean it. 4 months before the wedding. For months before our wedding, I started hearing things. From my aunt. From cousins. From family friends. All about Daniel's investment business. He had been telling people for 2 years that he was running a high-return investment fund for private clients. Small minimum investment. 40% annual returns. Guaranteed. He had pitched my parents first. They invested $120,000. Their savings. Not retirement. Just savings. Then my aunt and uncle. $30,000. Then my cousin Marcus. $25,000. Then family friends. Various amounts. I heard about it almost by accident. My aunt mentioned it at a family gathering while I was in the kitchen making coffee. She said something about Daniel's fund and how she hoped returns would come in before the holidays. I felt cold. I did not say anything that day, but I started asking quiet questions. What I found. Over the next 3 weeks, I asked around carefully. What I learned made my stomach turn. Daniel had no investment fund. He had a spreadsheet and a fake website he had built on a free platform. and a lot of confidence. He had been collecting money from family and family friends for 2 years. He sent monthly statements showing impressive returns. The statements were fake, made in Excel. He had watched a YouTube tutorial. Nobody had tried to withdraw money yet because he kept telling them the fund was in a locked period for maximum growth. The locked period had kept extending. I talked to my cousin Marcus in private. Has anyone ever gotten money back from Daniel's fund? Marcus frowned. Not yet. He says it unlocks in 3 months. But he has been saying 3 months for about a year now. Has anyone seen actual documentation? Marcus pulled out his phone. Just this. He showed me a 1-page PDF that looked like it had been made in a free template tool. I took a photo of it. Then I called a friend from college who works in financial regulation. I described what I had found. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "That sounds like a Ponzi scheme. The locked period is a classic delay tactic. He is probably spending the money as it comes in and using new investments to pay fake statement balances if anyone pushes." Has anyone pushed? I do not think so. Not yet. He said, "If you have evidence this is happening, you should report it. And you should warn the investors." I said, "I know. But I need to be sure first." The private investigator. I hired a private investigator. I found one through my friend. Former fraud investigator. Very discreet. I gave her Daniel's information. The fake website. The PDF. Everything I had gathered. She worked for 3 weeks. What she found was worse than I expected. Daniel had collected $218,000 from 11 investors. All family or family friends. He had spent it. Gambling. Mostly online poker and sports betting apps. Some casino trips to Atlantic City and Vegas. He had also spent it on a lifestyle that looked like success. Nice apartment. Good car. Expensive clothes. All the visible markers of a man whose business was thriving. The PI got recordings. She had documented meetings where Daniel pitched investors. In one recording, he told my aunt her money was in a government-protected trust that could not lose value. That was not just a lie. That was fraud. She gave me a full report. 40 pages. Recordings. Bank records she had legally obtained. Photos. Receipts. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer. She confirmed, "This is criminal fraud. He could face serious charges." I asked what I should do. She said, "That is your choice. But you have an obligation to the investors to tell them. And the longer they wait, the less chance of recovering any money." I sat with that for a week. Then something happened that made my decision for me. What Daniel did. 2 weeks before the wedding, Daniel called me. His voice was warm. Friendly. The big brother performing affection. "Hey, little brother. How are the wedding preparations?" "Good. Almost ready. Listen, I have been thinking. I want to do something special for you at the wedding. Something to show you how proud I am." "What kind of something?" "I want to perform a song. I have been working on something original. About brotherhood. About how much you mean to me." I felt a prickle of alarm. "You want to perform a song at my wedding?" "Just a few minutes. It would mean everything to me. And to Mom and Dad." "Daniel, it is my wedding. Not a talent show." I know. But this is my way of expressing what I feel. You know, I have always been more emotional than you. Music is my language." I said I would think about it. He had never once played an instrument. He could not sing. He had never in my life expressed deep feelings about our brotherhood. I called Claire and told her what he had proposed. Her exact words were, "Absolutely not." I called Daniel back and said no. He said, "I understand. I just hope you do not regret it." That last sentence stayed with me. I hope you do not regret it. Not okay. Not I respect your decision. I hope you do not regret it. Like he was going to do it anyway. The week before. 6 days before the wedding, I made a decision. I was going to expose Daniel. Not because I was angry. Not for revenge. Because my parents had $120,000 in his fake fund. My aunt and uncle had $30,000. My cousin Marcus had $25,000. And in 3 months, when Daniel could no longer delay with locked period excuses, they would lose all of it. I owed it to them to tell them. And I was going to tell them in a way they could not ignore. Because I had tried quiet conversations with my parents before. Any time I raised concerns about Daniel, they were dismissed, defended, explained away. I needed evidence.
Public.
Undeniable. In front of everyone. I talked to Claire. She listened to everything I told her about Daniel's fraud. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "This is your call. But I support whatever you decide. And if you decide to do it at the wedding, just make sure you time it so we get actually married first." I laughed for the first time in weeks. She is the best person I know. The preparation. I spent 5 days preparing. I talked to my lawyer again. She walked me through exactly what I could and could not do legally with the information I had. I talked to the venue. Arranged access to the sound system for a specific moment in the reception program. I talked to my best man, Rob. He had known Daniel since we were kids. He was not surprised by what I told him. He helped me plan the timing. I forwarded everything to the PI's report to every investor. All 11 of them. Set to deliver via email at exactly 6 p.m. on the day of the wedding. I sent a separate package to the State Attorney General's Fraud Division with all supporting documentation. I printed a summary of the key evidence. 1 page. Clean and clear. I put everything on my phone in a folder labeled ready. And I waited for my wedding day. The wedding morning. The ceremony was at 2 p.m. At 11 a.m., Claire texted me from her hotel room. "Last chance to back out of Plan B." I replied, "Not a chance." She replied, "Good. I love you. See you at the altar." I got dressed. Felt calm. Clearer than I had felt in years. Rob came to my room at noon to help me with my tie. He said, "How are you feeling?" "Ready." "Good." Because I just saw Daniel in the parking lot. He is wearing a white suit. I felt something cold and certain settle in my chest. He was going to do it anyway. He was going to perform his song, whether I wanted it or not. Rob said, "Your parents are letting it happen. Your mom was fixing his lapel when I saw them." So they knew. Of course they knew. The ceremony. The ceremony was perfect. Claire walked down the aisle in a dress that made me feel like the luckiest person alive. We said our vows. Exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced us married. We kissed. Our guests cheered. And in that moment, I was purely happy. Then we moved inside for the reception. The moment. Cocktail hour finished. Guests took their seats for dinner. My best man gave a toast. Funny.
Warm. Perfect.
Claire's best friend gave a toast. Made everyone cry. Then, without being called upon or announced, Daniel stood up from his table. He was wearing the white suit Rob had warned me about. He walked to the small stage area at the front of the room. He picked up the microphone that was meant for dinner announcements.
He tapped it.
The room went quiet. He said, "I have a surprise for my little brother and his beautiful bride. A gift from the heart. I have written an original song about what it means to have a brother who loves you. I hope it speaks to everything we have been to each other." My parents in the front row were beaming. My mom had her phone out filming. Guests looked uncertain, glancing at each other, then at me. I sat very still. Daniel closed his eyes, started to sing. His voice was off-key from the first note. The song was about sacrifice, about guiding a younger brother through life, about how a man like him shapes the men around him without ever getting credit. It was entirely about Daniel. I was a supporting character in my own wedding song. I looked at Claire. She raised one eyebrow. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out my phone, opened the folder labeled ready, and I walked to the sound booth at the back of the room. The recording. The room heard it immediately. Daniel's voice came through the speakers.
Clear and sharp.
He was at what sounded like a bar, laughing, telling someone that his family were the easiest marks he had ever found. He said, "They actually believe in a 40% guaranteed return." Who does that? But when they love you, they stop thinking. I have been living off their money for 2 years, and they think they are getting rich. Daniel stopped singing. He opened his eyes, looked at the speakers, then looked at me. I held up my phone. He said, "Turn that off." I turned up the volume instead. The second recording started. Daniel again. A different night. He was explaining to someone how he built the fake website. How the PDF statements looked real if you did not look closely. How he kept pushing the locked period to buy time. How much he had won at poker last weekend. How he needed to win more because the investors were going to want returns eventually, and he had already spent most of it. My mom's face had gone white. My dad was very still. My aunt grabbed my uncle's arm. Marcus put both hands flat on the table and stared. I played a third recording. Daniel telling a story at what sounded like a casino. He described my parents specifically. He used their names. He said they had given him $120,000 and still called him every week to brag to their friends about their son, the investor. He laughed and called them pathetic. He called them pathetic. My mother made a sound I had never heard her make before. My father stood up. Daniel looked around the room. Every face turned toward him. He said, "This is taken out of context." I said, "All 42 recordings are out of context?" He said, "You set me up." I said, "You set up our family. I just documented it." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the one-page summary. I said, "Everyone in this room who invested money with Daniel received a full report by email at 6 p.m. today. If you have not seen it yet, please check your inbox." The report includes bank records showing where the money went, gambling accounts, luxury hotels, credit cards. There is also a copy of the formal complaint I filed this week with the state attorney general. The room was completely silent. My dad said, "Daniel, is this true?" Not a question, a statement. Daniel looked at me with something that might have been hatred or might have been fear. Probably both. He said, "You're insane. You ruined your own wedding." I said, "No. I got married to the woman I love surrounded by people who deserve to know the truth. You ruined 4 years of their financial security. I just made sure they found out before it got worse." Daniel dropped the microphone on the table. The sound rang through the speakers. He walked toward the exit. He did not look at my parents. He just walked out.
My dad sat down slowly.
My mom put her face in her hands. My aunt was already on her phone. Claire came to stand beside me. She took my hand. I looked at our guests. Some shocked. Some crying. Some already on phones. I said, "I am deeply sorry for the disruption. My wife and I would like to continue celebrating our wedding if you're willing to stay. There is dinner and dancing and a lot of good wine. And the people who need to deal with this situation now have everything they need to do so." There was a moment of silence. Then Rob started clapping. Then others joined. We had dinner. We danced. The guests who stayed all night. The aftermath. In the weeks after the wedding, Daniel was arrested 6 weeks later. Fraud charges. Wire fraud. Identity theft for using my parents' information for some of the investment paperwork. His lawyer says he is looking at significant prison time. My parents recovered about $30,000 of the $120,000 they lost. The rest was gone. Spent at casinos and on his lifestyle. They are working with a financial advisor to adjust their retirement plans. It will be tight, but manageable. My aunt and uncle recovered most of their $30,000 through a fraud recovery claim. They are okay. Marcus got nothing back. He is the most philosophical about it. He told me, "At least I know. Better now than 5 years from now when everything was truly gone." My parents called me the week after the wedding. Dad spoke first. He said, "You knew?"
"Yes."
"For how long?" "About 2 months." "Why did you not tell us before the wedding?" "I tried to tell you things about Daniel for 15 years, and you never believed me. I needed evidence you could not dismiss. I needed it public and documented and undeniable." Silence. Then Dad said, "You were right. We would not have believed you." Another silence. He said, "I am sorry. For all of it. For the birthday party, when you were 13. For every time we chose his minor problems over your real achievements. For not seeing what he was doing. For not seeing what we were doing." I felt something in my chest shift. I said, "Thank you for saying that." Mom asked if they could see us. Have dinner. Start over somehow. I said I needed time. But I said it leaving the door open.
Claire and I talked about it that night.
She said, They lost a son and $120,000 on the same day. They are suffering. I said, they made choices for 30 years that hurt me.
She said, yes.
And they might be ready to make different choices now. People can change when the cost of staying the same becomes high enough. She paused. Then, but that is your decision. I will support whatever you choose. I chose to have dinner with them. It was hard, awkward, full of unsaid things. But it was a start. 3 months later. It is 3 months after the wedding. Daniel is awaiting trial. He has pled not guilty. His lawyer is working on a deal. My parents are in therapy individually and together, working through what happened, what they enabled, what they missed. My dad has called me every Sunday for 3 months. Short calls, just checking in, asking how work is, how Claire is. Not Daniel-focused, not crisis-focused, just dad, calling his son
To talk.
It feels new, strange, but real. My mom is harder. She is grieving Daniel the way she imagined him to be. The golden son, the successful investor, the charming boy she was so proud of. That person never existed.
She is learning that.
It takes time. Claire and I are good. Better than good. We came back from our honeymoon tan and happy and closer than we have ever been. She said the wedding was the most dramatic event she had ever attended, and she would not change a single thing. I told her I was sorry it was not more traditional. She said, I married the man who protected his family even when they did not deserve it, and told the truth even when it cost him. That is not something to be sorry about. What I learned that golden children can hide dark things behind the protection their parents give them. I learned that enabling someone does not only hurt the people they take from, it eventually destroys the person being enabled too. I learned that evidence matters more than emotion when you need someone to finally see the truth. I learned that timing is everything. I waited until there was no way the truth could be dismissed or explained away. And I learned that the people who finally see clearly, even if it takes them 30 years, can still change. My parents chose Daniel over me for most of my life. Then Daniel took everything from them. And in the rubble of that they finally saw me clearly. That is a hard way to learn. But they're learning.
And I am choosing to let them try.
For everyone asking, did you feel guilty exposing him at the wedding?
No.
I felt relief. And clarity. The moment had been coming for years. Do you regret the timing?
No.
A public setting with documentation and witnesses meant no one could dismiss it or protect him. It needed to be undeniable. Is Claire really okay with how it went? She chose me knowing who I was and what my family was like. She says she married me because I do not run from hard things. The wedding proved that. Will you forgive your parents? I am working on it.
They're working on it.
It is not instant, but it is real. What happened to the investors beyond your family? All 11 received the PI report. Most filed complaints. The Attorney General's investigation is ongoing. Some may recover money through the legal process. Are you happy?
Yes. Genuinely.
For the first time in my adult life, I have a marriage, the beginnings of a real relationship with my parents, and the knowledge that I did not let my brother run his con until there was nothing left to take. That is worth everything.
And
I finally snapped at my own wedding. I did something that left my family absolutely terrified. Not with anger, not with shouting, with evidence, with patience, with planning, with truth. My brother sang a song about brotherly love. I played recordings of him stealing from everyone who loved him. He walked out. The wedding continued. And the golden child finally faced what he had done. Some things are worth waiting for. The truth is one of them.